Welcome to Talk Wave, making waves, one talk at a time.
All right, so let's dive into a story that's all over the news and could actually impact what you see in your social media feeds.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
The future of TikTok in the U.S. is kind of up in the air right now.
Yeah.
President-elect Trump is getting involved, asking the Supreme Court to basically hit pause on a law that could force TikTok to be sold or even totally banned in the U.S.
And the timing on this is wild.
Hmm.
We're talking about a law that's supposed to go into effect January 19th, 2025, like literally one day before Trump takes office.
Yeah, it's a super tight timeline, and the Supreme Court is on a tightrope here. They've scheduled these arguments for January 10th, which only gives them 9 days to actually make a decision before the law kicks in. So that really shows you how seriously they're taking this.
So for those of us who haven't been, glued to every legal update, what is this law all about?
It's called the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act.
That's a mouthful.
I know, right? So Congress passed it back in April. President Biden signed it. It's all about apps like TikTok because it's owned by a Chinese company, ByteDance. The law basically says either ByteDance sells TikTok to an American company or it's banned in the U.S.
And this is where it gets even more interesting because Trump is getting involved, and we all know he doesn't exactly shy away from a deal. What's his angle here?
Well, he's saying he wants to press pause. Not because he's decided whether TikTok is actually a security risk or not, but because he thinks he can strike a better deal.
He thinks he can work out something different.
Yeah, he's even said he has the consummate deal-making expertise to make it happen.
Hold on a sec. Didn't Trump actually try to ban TikTok during his first term? It feels like we've seen this movie before.
You're totally right. He did try to ban it back in 2020, saying it was a national security risk, but courts blocked those attempts, saying there wasn't enough evidence. This time it's a little different because there's a law specifically targeting apps like TikTok.
So is this Trump trying to be the hero here, swooping in to save TikTok? Or is there something else going on? Like, some people are saying it's less about national security and more about Trump kind of flexing his muscles on the world stage.
I mean, it's definitely a power move, putting himself right in the middle of this huge situation. And remember, this isn't just about TikTok. It's about the whole power dynamic between governments and these giant tech companies.
And speaking of giant, we can't forget the millions of people who use TikTok every day. For many of them, it's not just watching funny videos, it's their actual livelihood.
Exactly. Creators, businesses, educators, a whole ecosystem has been built around TikTok. A ban would be devastating for some people.
Yeah, and let's be real, a lot of us get our news recipes, even DIY tips from TikTok. It's become a part of our lives. So I want to hear from you. What does TikTok mean to you? How would you feel if it just disappeared?
You know, it's interesting to think about Trump's history with business deals.
Yeah.
He's always presented himself as this master negotiator, someone who can get those win-win deals. But his actual record is, well, let's just say it's mixed.
So you're saying some people might be a little skeptical about whether he can actually pull this off?
Yeah, I mean, is this consummate deal-maker image real? Or is it just really good branding?
Yes, is that who he actually is?
Right.
Yeah.
Some people argue that his way of making deals can be, well, kind of aggressive.
Okay.
Even combative, Think about those trade wars he started.
Yeah.
Or how he dealt with international allies during his first term. Not exactly known for being subtle.
So how do you think that might play out in this situation with TikTok? Is he going to try and strong-arm ByteDance into giving him what he wants?
Yeah.
Or could he actually come up with a solution that works for everyone, keeps TikTok alive and well in the U.S., and also addresses those security concerns?
It's tough to say. He definitely has a lot of power to put pressure on them.
Huh.
He could dangle the possibility of a deal, as leverage, but then push for terms that really favor the U.S., maybe even force ByteDance to give up a lot of control over TikTok.
But wouldn't that go against his whole deal-maker image?
Uh-huh.
Wouldn't he want a deal that everyone sees as a win, a victory?
That's the big question. Does he really care about a win for everyone, or does he just want a win for himself?
Right.
I mean, his past actions show he's not afraid to walk away from a deal if it doesn't give him exactly what he wants, even if that means other people get hurt.
And in this case, that could be a lot of people.
Exactly.
Millions of users rely on TikTok for entertainment, for connection, even for income.
Yeah.
I saw a story the other day about a single mom who built this whole baking business on TikTok. She teaches classes, sells her treats online.
Right.
Imagine if her business just vanished.
Right. It's easy to forget about the human side of this story and all the legal and political back and forth. For a lot of people, TikTok isn't just an app.
Yeah.
It's a lifeline. a community, a way to be creative and make a living.
And it's not just individuals. We're
Mhm.
talking about businesses, big and small,
Mm.
who are using TikTok to reach new customers, build their brands.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to them if everything changes overnight?
It really makes you think about how stable and predictable the digital world actually is. Can businesses and regular people really rely on these platforms if they can be affected by politics?
It feels like we're in uncharted territory here.
Yeah.
We've never seen a social media platform with this much global reach and impact face such an uncertain future.
And the stakes are so high, not just for TikTok and its users, but for the future of social media and the internet as a whole. This case could set a precedent for how governments around the world regulate online platforms. It could change the digital landscape for years to come.
I mean, it kind of feels like we're at a crossroads here,
Yeah.
not just for TikTok, but for the whole internet. This situation makes you wonder, what kind of digital world are we actually building?
Yeah, it's a really important question. This whole case, it really shines a light on that tension between national security and individual freedom,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to the digital age. I mean, it's a balancing act. Finding the right balance is really tricky.
Because on the one hand, you have these very real concerns about data privacy and like foreign governments maybe trying to influence things,
Right.
especially with a platform as big as TikTok.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, you have millions of people using it to connect, to create, to build businesses. It's become a huge part of our culture.
It really has. And that's what makes this whole situation so tough. How do you protect national security without, like, squashing innovation and free speech?
Yeah.
It's a problem that's going to keep coming up as technology keeps changing and those lines get blurrier.
So while we wait for the Supreme Court to decide, it feels like this big question mark is just hanging over TikTok's future. Is there a way forward that addresses those security concerns but doesn't silence the people who rely on the platform?
There might be. Maybe a deal can be made. One that includes, independent oversight, data security measures, being more transparent. But it's going to take everyone being willing to compromise.
And maybe this whole thing will actually lead to a bigger conversation about how we govern the digital world in the future.
Yeah, that would be great.
I mean, do we want a more fragmented internet where every country has different rules?
Right?
Or can we find a way to create like a global framework that protects security and individual rights at the same time?
Those are questions everyone needs to think about. Not just the people making policy, us too, the people actually using these platforms. What kind of digital world do we want? What are we willing to give up for security?
Yeah.
And how do we make sure our voices are heard?
That's a good point. So the next time you open up TikTok and see a funny video or learn a new recipe or discover a band you've never heard of, remember that there's a much bigger story going on behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
A story about power, about freedom, and about what the internet will look like in the years to come.
And remember, you're not just watching this story unfold. You're part of it. Your choices, your voice, your actions, all of it matters.
It really does. This isn't just about TikTok. It's about the digital world we're all creating together. So stay informed, stay involved, and let's keep this conversation going.